G'day and welcome to our big edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to our friends at Ontime Delivery Solutions. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara, from the Star Weekly, with finals fever as well and truly upon us. And week 2 is just around the corner.
It is, and we've had a big 12 months in the RDFL. But the one thing stays the same. We've still got the same top 4 sides as we did 12 months ago. That
is absolutely frightening. I'd never actually put 2 and 2 together on that one. And the thing that I'm pretty excited about is that we've got last year's grand finalists playing off an elimination final as well. So we will have new grand finalists one way or another. And then we know how the decorated history that Diggers Rest and Riddell have, and then Riddell and Macedon have, like all these 4 teams that have been running around. There's just such a great history between the 4.
It is, and I think if people had have said pre-season that we had these 4 sides as your last 4 sides in the competition, I don't think many people would have been surprised. A lot may have had Wallen up there, but to say you've got these 4 sides, which have been up there for the last few years, they've all got a lot of young talent coming through. I know some of these sides have had their 19s in. I know Diggers didn't this year, but they've previously had their 19s in finals. So these sides have sort of built up the last few years, and they've kept that momentum going. So I'm not surprised to see them out there. And there's a lot of rivalries here. You've got obviously you've got Diggers Rest Riddell. We saw play off in a thriller of a grand final a few years ago. You've got Macedon Rupertswood, which played off in a grand final last year, and they've also got their Anzac Day rivalry as well. And then we saw the last week Riddell and Rupertswood, and then Rupertswood Diggers Rest even was 4 points there. So there's a lot of rivalry between these 4 sides. And look, hopefully it's a cracker round of football.
Yeah, we've first game we'll turn our attention to, which is over at I think it's a Clark Oval on Saturday. We've got Diggers Rest and Riddell. How do you see this one panning out?
Yeah, obviously the second semi-final, and these 2 sides are playing off for a grand final spot. This will be quite interesting. You've got Riddell, who has absolutely dominated in recent, haven't lost since round 3.
Yep.
That round 3 loss to Diggers Rest.
Yep.
So it's a long time ago, but
and that was a small margin as well.
I think it was about 18 points. So that was that was Riddell's last loss. But Diggers Rest can say they've actually got a win against them. Not many sides can say that. In the end, you've got Riddell, who I saw and were quite impressive against Rupertswood, especially in that second half. They were able to run away with the game. And then you've got the Boroughs, who are sort of building. They've had 2 really good performances the last 2 weeks, absolutely dominated in that first quarter against Romsey. And they're playing on Clark Oval, which a lot of people say Clark Oval doesn't suit Diggers Rest because they're probably don't have those outside pace as some of those other sides do, but they had a quite convincing win over Romsey there. And you look, we spoke Matt Metcalf, who we spoke about earlier in the week. He's absolutely dominated on that ground for a number of years, and he showed that pace and that ability to play in the middle and then go forward and kick goals. So he's probably a key to them heading forward this week. Look, I think Riddell probably too strong after what I saw last week. It would be hard to tip against them.
Yeah, for me, Diggers Rest is still a bit of a smoky in the competition. I know that, and I've said it last week, their best is still really impressive. They showed that on the weekend. They've got a pretty good functioning forward line that's probably not too dissimilar to Riddell. I don't know. I'm still not convinced that... I'm still convinced that this is an opportunity where we could see these 2 play off in a grand final. I just think that there's absolute quality there at the Boroughs, and they showed that on the weekend. But the thing that I probably look at is Riddell's had a testing run over the last few weeks, whereas Diggers Rest, their probably last 3 or 4 weeks, they've been able to have some pretty convincing wins.
Look, and the one thing with Diggers Rest, they've been in every single game they've played in. I think I've looked up a couple of weeks ago. Their losses have been by a combined of 22 points or something. Yeah. So besides that loss to Wood and Heskett, which was a bit of a surprise, they lost to Wallen, I think, by under a goal, and they've had 2 4-point losses to Rupertswood. Diggers Rest has been in every single game, so you can't even be 10-15% off, or the Boroughs are going to knock you off. Where Riddell, as you said, they probably have had that tough one. They've had a couple of... they had Rupertswood in the first week of the finals. They had Wood and Heskett, who was fighting for a final spot. You had Romsey, who was fighting for a final spot. So you've had a few of those tougher ones, but they seem primed for just the way they played in that first week. I think they're very determined. You've got that young group, and I think there's a lot of resolve in that group to get to the grand final this year.
So who's your tip for this one?
Riddell.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be inclined to go that way as well. And then we turn our attention to Sunday afternoon football, and we've got the 2017 grand finals going head-to-head. This is Rupo and Macedon. You saw one, I saw the other. What's your take on Rupo? What do they need to do to turn that form around?
Look, probably in the end, winning the ball in the middle. So Riddell were able to get the ball out of the middle and down forward. They had plenty of opportunities in that second half and dominated the contest, where the Sharks sort of struggled a bit. When they got it forward at times, they didn't really have that key target. Obviously, you've got Nick Grigg down there, but I don't think he was dominant. Todd Podolzak played a lot of the game on the wing. They did play Brett Chambers down forward. Whether or not he plays this week, he probably will be under an injury cloud, having limped off the field during the third quarter. He did return, but didn't play up the ground in his normal position. So that's where they sort of need to get forward and get those goals, which we've seen so many times this season.
It does sound like from them that, I mean, all teams carry them, but that they might be carrying a few injuries to key players where they probably can't afford to, and maybe that's where Macedon's strength could lie.
Well, it's interesting whether Macedon brings in an Errol McConnell or an Aaron Johnston, but you say that the Cats aren't at full fitness. They've struggled with injuries throughout the year, so both sides have been pretty similar. They've had injuries to their key players, and they're playing them in the finals, and that's what you've got to do. And probably every side's got injured players. It's which side can run out with the better fitness probably might get the win. The
player that really blew my mind on the weekend, and I watched a lot of his stuff through the juniors, and he's quite relatively unknown to yourself, but Jay Wilton was exceptional across half-back. The man they call Swanee, who was an interleague representative, won club best and fairest and all that sort of stuff before he disappeared for 5 or 6 years, and he came back to start the year, and then he missed a substantial period of time for injury, and he's come back at the right time. He is electric. We're seeing a lot of people seeing him for the first time, and they are getting blown away. He is one of the keys. I mean, you take out Tegan Henderson from last year's premiership side. Look, I know Teague's a fantastic player, but Jay Wilton is exceptional. I think he's just filled that hole really well. Then you've got Seb Malatek going back, and he's starting to get back after his trip from overseas. Look, they are looking pretty frightening at the moment.
It is, and for me, probably the key could be the ruck contest. Dean Putt versus Tom Waters. Tom Waters, we all know what he can do. Yep. And Dean Putt's one guy who can match him with size and ability as well. You put Putt forward, he can kick a couple of goals there, so that's maybe an option. But I think that's probably going to be one of the keys of this match. Who can win that in the middle of the ball and around the ground and help get the ball down to their midfielders. And look, for the Cats, probably they've seen the development of Zach Smedley. He's probably stepped up and been, if not their best midfielder this season, the in and under midfield with injuries to your McConnell, to your Kilmartin, to your Casey Summerfield. So he's sort of stepped up and really become that key to them in the middle. Look, I think Rupertswood will bounce back, but it will be a close match. Yeah,
exactly. I'd be fascinated to see how they structure their forward line. As you highlighted earlier on in the week, they pushed Todd Podolzak up in the midfield. I know Cam McGorry was playing across half-back. I get why they're doing that, to try and generate some run off half-back and get some penetration forward. But these guys, they're capable of kicking 4 to 5 goals each. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. So do you keep them forward, so you give them that bit of more forward structure, or do you still keep them further up the ground to try and win some of that ball? What would you do?
Look, you've obviously got other targets down there. You do have Nick Grigg, who can kick a bag of goals. You've got Lee Wellington there as well. So you've got a couple of key targets without those guys. Todd, we've seen move around the ground all year, whether or not he's getting if he's not getting a lot of the ball, they will move him up to the wing, and he can get the ball out there and move the ball forward. So it'll be interesting where he sort of goes, and what's that sort of best lineup, whether he's got a bit of height that he goes out on a wing. Obviously a Markworth and a Dick are some of those tall midfielders for the Cats that you will need to match up on, so it'll be interesting where he plays. And look, I think the Sharks will bounce back. I think they're pretty disappointed with that second half, considering it's sort of Riddell's the only side that's really got to them this year, and yet again did it in the first week of the finals.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I know the Sharks put on their Facebook, one of the comments during the week was, we owe a victory against them at Romsey Park in reference to losing last year's grand final, so no doubt they will certainly be up and about. So and while we're on that, make sure you watch the Shark Tank. The Tank, it is fantastic. Compulsory viewing on YouTube. Well, it looks like we might have the Cats sort of bow out, or we'll have the Sharks bow out. I think either way, it's we're going to see a really good final series. That top three, they're going to be really good going in after next week. So we'll watch with great interest.
And who's your tip?
I'm going to tip a fantastic game. Well, I mean,
result.
To be honest, I find it very difficult to tip a game. I'm not going to lie. We've got some grand final football on this weekend. So we've got the AFL Women's grand final over at Mars Stadium. I cannot wait to see some of the Riddell teams out there.
Cats or Sharks?
I'm tipping a really good... I can't tip a game I can't see. We'll leave it on that one. Thanks to our friends at Ontime Delivery Solutions. Thanks to jumping on board, Tara. We'll find out. I'll tell you my tip when we turn the camera off, and then we'll see if I've got to win next week. So thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for having me.